rolling tumors to roaring lampooners, the Tigers on a Roll show starts in 3, 2, 1.
We are back. War Eagle, y'all. Welcome back to Tigers on a Roll. After going through 3 computers, we're back in action. And I cannot be more excited to be back with y'all making videos. Of course, it's tough to record when I'm waiting to get a laptop back from the Las Vegas airport TSA and the college football world starts imploding. I don't think that will be the last time that it happens out there in the CFB world or any of the sports that we cover. And fingers crossed, I am going to be able to be on top of it the next time that it comes around. Anyway, if you're listening to this on your commute or, you're watching on the treadmill at the gym, or maybe you're just hiding in your office during your lunch break trying to avoid getting back to work, I get it. So like, share, and subscribe to this video so that we can continue to bring you guys great content whenever you are able to tune in. But boy, it has been quite a couple of weeks on the plains. We are fully in the thick of the go time transition. I'm not sure if there was really ever a honeymoon phase, because Alex Golesh's personality is so matter of fact. He did not really, want to be put on a pedestal. He knew what he was walking into. We know what we're dealing with. He knows, and his staff knows, the reality of a regime change. So we've got, portal entries that make you want to throw your phone across the room, some of them. We've got a big basketball game coming up in Indianapolis that feels like some David and Goliath matchup there. And we have to talk about, Sherrone Moore, because I missed it last week when it was all breaking. And then we're also going to cover the Gymnastics meet last night, their annual preview at the end of this show. If you've been on Twitter, if you've talked to any Auburn alumni, current student, Auburn fan, you've been on the message boards over the last few days, it has felt like the sky is falling when some of these names have dropped. The names, of course, are folks that are intending to exit the program when the portal window opens. We knew that attrition was coming. So don't be too surprised. You don't go 5-7, fire your head coach in Hugh Freeze, and then bring in a new guy with a completely different offensive philosophy and expect everyone to stay on the team. That's just not how modern college football works. That's not how Alex Golesh works. That's not how the Auburn football program works. Across the board, it was bound to happen. And you know what, folks? I get it. I get it. Seeing Malcolm Simmons especially hit the portal on, I believe it was Saturday, that one hurt. But did it hurt because he was a game changer, or did it hurt because he was supposed to be a game changer? In a season, in the last couple seasons, where the offense has looked like it was running in mud, Simmons had certainly shown that he could, house a slant. But he had about 900 total yards, 6 touchdowns in 2 seasons at Auburn. And unfortunately, you probably could have gotten the same production out of someone like Dylan Gentry if you really tried hard enough. There's no question Malcolm Simmons, young Malcolm, is a freak athlete. We knew that coming in. That was one of the selling points of getting him out on the field early. And he was supposed to be a cornerstone along with the other Freeze 4 guys. But Alex Golesh obviously doesn't think so. And, you and I both have no idea what Alex Golesh knows for certain. Malcolm Simmons had character problems. He'd been demanding NIL that this new staff probably didn't think was worth it for the production that he was putting on the field. And he may not have been developed enough to be a scheme fit, as soon as next year, which would have been his junior year, as soon as next year. And they wouldn't have been able to implement him. there's dozens of reasons why guys leave in the portal these days. And, look right next to him at Perry Thompson and even Jackson Arnold. They're walking out the door with Malcolm Simmons. And, we'll definitely get into the why of it all, because it's really easy for Auburn fans or college football fans to say, oh, they're bag chasing or they don't want to compete. And I don't think that is fair to guys that showed up every day and did play, a couple seasons at Auburn. I think what we can all say and agree on right now is that if Golesh is letting these guys go, it's because they are not a system fit. Think about Alex Golesh's offense. We saw the Veer-and-Shoot at Tennessee, and we saw it succeed at USF. It is an offensive scheme that uses extreme tempo and wide splits where receivers are essentially lining up in the Gatorade coolers on the sidelines. The system requires a very specific type of receiver and quarterback. But for receiver, it's not just about being an athlete. It's about the discipline to fit in the system. In the Veer-and-Shoot, the receivers have to make choice routes. So based on, leverage of defenders, depth of the route, whatever it is that comes into play in that specific play, you're running as a receiver, you're running full speed. And in a split second, you have got to decide, am I breaking this off? Am I going vertical? Where is the space here? And then the quarterback has to make the exact same read at the exact same time, or the ball is going to end up in the safety's hands. And Malcolm Simmons, to his credit, is an incredible athlete. There's no question. And, so is Perry. But, maybe when he looked at Malcolm, because I think right now, I'm going to just preface it with the whole thing, is like, I think Malcolm hurts the worst that he's going to the portal. But Golesh probably looked at him and then looked at the system and said, this just isn't right for us. Or maybe Golesh looked at the film and said, I need guys who run more complex route trees. Because everyone knows at this point in time, upon Hughes exiting, the route tree was a go or a comeback. That was it until the last couple games when Nix took over play calling and we had some plays over the middle of the field. But that could definitely come into play here, is these guys just don't have the route trees in their repertoire to be able to run this offense and know where they should be ending up on any given play with these choice routes. Which brings you to Perry, who Hugh Freeze said, like verbatim, Perry Thompson was not developing at the rate he thought. So no surprise there that, Perry enters the portal. Perry himself is physically an absolute monster. But Golesh's system prioritizes pure, unadulterated vertical speed to stretch the field, both horizontally and vertically. And Thompson is a more physical receiver. And sure, we all remember, like, he won some foot races without pads on against some of the fastest guys on the team, but that doesn't mean he's a system fit. Does he, fit a system that wants to run 90 plays a game at mock speed? Maybe not. Perry doesn't, and potentially Malcolm just wasn't developed enough either for the scheme. So do not be super surprised when these guys do officially get in the portal and they go play somewhere else. And they might even look really good where they end up. It just was not going to be on Golesh's offense. And then you've got Jackson Arnold, who obviously started this last season as QB1. And who, by the way, I wish nothing but the best for. He is a really good kid with a really good family. He is a competitor, and he has had a brutal, really, really brutal hand dealt to him since he has joined the SEC out of high school. He is talented, that is for sure. But in this new offense, and even the one that he got kicked out of essentially this last season, the quarterback has to be the point guard on the field. He has to process information faster, which he was not really able to do, and he has to do it faster than any other offense in the country. If he couldn't do it in Hughes' scheme, I doubt he's able to do it in the Veer-and-Shoot. And, Golesh, no doubt, is probably going to bring in his own guy, and he loves Deuce. So J.A. really had no spot. And we have not heard about Ashton Daniels yet. But the rumors are swirling on a couple guys that could run this Veer-and-Shoot for Golesh way better than he, has analyzed Jackson Arnold to be. So we may be getting a few out of the portal to round out the room. We will do a show on that later on as they are announced. But it is all scheme specific. And it might be a blessing in disguise. I think there is some benefit to Hugh Freeze in the last game, and then obviously the interim staff over the end of the season, having committed to Ashton being the starter, because now the Auburn hit pieces by AL.com can't have the headline, Auburn loses its QB1, when Arnold announced that he was entering the portal. And I think that is actually a silver lining of all of this, because Jackson Arnold was probably going to leave either way. Now they can't frame it as the roster and the team falling apart like they probably wanted to when they started writing them when Hugh Freeze was leaving. But either way though, this is not a huge loss. And please hear me out, because we're going to get into a list soon. That it's notable, but it's not huge. And it's notable because the traits are there. And Hugh Freeze on his, PR damage repair campaign went out and went as far as saying if JA was a better, Freeze would still have a job, which is an absolutely crazy way to talk about a 20-year-old football player as a veteran head coach. That was insane. Complete disrespect to JA, but what else is there to expect after he disrespected Damari on his way off the roster as well? Hugh Freeze is known at this point for being a guy that sends players directly under the bus. But like I said, we're going to get into a list here of folks that all have announced their intent to enter the portal. And I believe we have a dozen right now. And just so you know, so you can go to the water cooler and talk about it, we are going to pull up this list and have it. All right. You can go to the water cooler the next few weeks and you can talk about these guys when some, buddy wearing a crimson polo shirt comes and tries to talk smack to you. Seth Wilfred is the latest. He was a reserve offensive lineman. He did not play at all this year. That is the last guy to go. Do not be surprised. And we just added Bear. I would not be surprised if even more linemen leave. Sticking with linemen, Favor Edwin, a Nigerian native player, really, really physically, dominant guy, but he didn't play in 2 years on the Plains outside of scout team reps. Then you got DeAndre Carter on the other side of the ball, basically exclusively a special teams guy. He probably could have played next year, probably, but really another guy with a dominant frame. I believe he was switching between guard and tackle at one point, but you know what? Special teams guy exclusively, could have fought for a spot, decided not to. He is heading out. And then you've got Damari Alston, who wanted a red shirt in the season. Freeze said no. And he has not been with the program since the UGA game, so that is no surprise. Antonio Coleman. Antonio Coleman, by the way, remember this, was suspended indefinitely in August. He was also embarrassingly non-committal during his recruitment and is undersized for the position that he plays anyway. So there was really no chance in him sticking around. So don't feel so bad when that announcement came out and this list gets longer. Rayon Strader. He was a pretty incredible pickup because he had a stout season, a couple seasons at Miami, Ohio. But at Auburn, he was more of a depth piece on Auburn's roster as the season went on. I believe he started as the third cornerback, ended up being the fourth, and then obviously serving naturally in that depth piece role because he was not cracking that starting rotation after the first few games. Horatio Fields, that one hurt originally. I'll be honest. I liked him a lot. He had some important catches for Auburn really early on in the season. He broke his foot and then was out for the remainder of the season. And he got a medical red shirt, which he will be playing his extra year there somewhere else. Not at Auburn. And then we got Amon Lane Gaines, another, outstanding recruit. And he was a super nice kid when I talked to him on his way to Auburn. I talked to him when he was in his senior year of high school. He played very sparingly on special teams as a freshman, and then he redshirted, and then he did not record a stat in 2 years at Auburn. That is not a huge loss, although he had a lot of potential, but so did all these guys. All these guys are worthy of being on an SEC roster. They just are not the cream of the crop, and they're going to go find a home somewhere else. And then Caleb Wheatland. Caleb Wheatland played in 3 games at Auburn after being a starter at Maryland the year prior. He is going to go find a new home because, like I said, you've got to be rising to the cream of the crop in the SEC. And you may have been good at a previous school or a prior stop, but if you can't do it at Auburn, unfortunately, it does not look like it's going to ever happen for guys like Caleb. So best of luck to them wherever they go. It's just not going to happen at Auburn. And then, of course, you have Hollis Davidson, who was, again, had issues, character issues early on. He was arrested during preseason camp and was also injured early on upon his arrival on campus. He worked on the scout team a little bit when he got healthy, but he was not a contributor like a lot of those folks, outside of obviously the wide receivers. And speaking of a wide receiver, Cameron King, walk on and got his scholarship this fall, got a scholarship this fall. He was a walk on and he had 1 catch for 6 yards against Ball State early in the season. And again, everyone on this list was really a depth piece, not really a contributor, and they were filling out kind of the back end of that roster. Do not be surprised if we see 10 or 15 more guys enter the portal when it is all said and done January 16th, I believe it is. But there's also an opportunity for people like Malcolm and Perry to stay if Golesh and his crew want to put the press on them. So all of these are just people that have said that they intend to enter the portal. There is no official documents being filed right now. The portal is not open, and it will not open until early January. So you keep an eye on the list. The list will grow, but it is not the worst thing to ever happen to this program. Honestly, the worst thing to happen to this program has been what has happened to it the last few years, which is the losingest stretch that Auburn has ever faced, which brings me to my take on the whole thing. And I need you to hear me out on this. Do not panic. Do not panic. I know it seems like it does with every school who have guys that are intending to enter the portal, that they are bleeding talent. But you can replace the talent here with other depth pieces, or bringing in someone from the portal, or developing further what you have retained. And keep this in mind. You cannot build a new house on a cracked foundation. Forget government regulations. You can't do it because it's not going to work and it's not sustainable. Golesh needs his guys. He needs guys that want to be at Auburn, that believe in Auburn and love it. He needs guys who are bought in and capable of playing at tempo. He needs guys that fit the schematic profile of the Veer-and-Shoot. And he wants guys who want to execute on what it takes to be an Auburn football player and bring the program back to the former glory that it had in as recent as the end 2010s. Because note this, and you've probably heard it already at some point this offseason. Every single coach since Pat Dye either went undefeated or won a national championship at some point in their tenure, except for Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin. We have had an absolute struggle, played for a national championship, not won it. We have had an absolute struggle since Gus Malzahn left. And this hinges on the fact that we may not be bringing in the right players. You are not recruiting to win signing day. You are recruiting to build a sustainable winning roster, and we don't have it, and we haven't had it the last couple of years. So do not panic. Auburn cannot fit a square peg into a round hole. Some of these guys just are not what the program needs. And I'm not going to call the kids losers themselves, but Auburn has had a losing record with most of the guys that we're coveting or that we're concerned about. So keep that in mind when these names are being announced for their intent to head out. What are you really losing? And if you keep some of them, see if this new staff can develop them. Fine. But keep in mind what it has looked like the last couple of years and ask yourself, could we have found someone else for, I guess, cheaper, or someone comparable that wants to be at Auburn? Period. We've got to trust Alex Golesh's evaluation of these players. We've got to trust that Golesh has a plan to replace them. And in this part of the CFB calendar, you've got to remember the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. We are in the taking phase right now. The giving phase is coming in January. Stay patient. And we will do a breakdown because I know it's another point of a topic of conversation. We'll do a breakdown of the coaching staff in one of the next shows. But first here, let's get a word from our sponsors. Brahma Marketing is your one-stop shop for everything from signs and apparel to high-impact vehicle wraps. As a certified 3M graphics company, they guarantee quality and durability. They've partnered with Greystar Real Estate, Prisma Health, HD Supply, and more. Stop blending in and start standing out. Visit brahmamarketing.com to get started on your next project. War Eagle from the Orlando Auburn Club. Are you an Auburn alum or a fan living in the Orlando area? This is more than just a club. It's your official connection to the Auburn family right here in Central Florida. The club hosts watch parties and networking events for past, current, and future Tigers and their families. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and online at orlandooburnclub.org. I've also got a I made a new little ticker down here so you can see the Brahma logo and the Orlando Auburn Club logo for our great sponsors circulating throughout the episode. Hope you like it. Let me know if you like the old one more or you like this one just as much or even better or whatever. All I'm doing is trying to make it nice to look at so you've got something to do other than look at my ugly face while you're listening to my voice take, some opinions on Auburn football and Auburn sports around campus, which is what is going to get us to shifting gears here. We got to talk about, actually, this isn't even Auburn's campus. We got to talk about something that has been dominating sports media the last week or so. The news out of Ann Arbor regarding Sherrone Moore. By now, you absolutely know the details. I was not on top of it, didn't have any way to record, but he was arrested last week. Charges of home invasion and stalking was arraigned last Monday, I believe, and comes basically simultaneously with his firing by Michigan. I've seen a lot of discourse online, and honestly, it is all so wild. So here's my question to y'all. Do you feel bad for him? Are we supposed to feel bad for him? I think it's complicated. Because on one hand, absolutely not. You cannot excuse the actions. Allegedly cheating on your wife with a subordinate, breaking into a home to threaten that subordinate, stalking after the web of lies that you've woven has unwound. Absolutely terrifying behavior. Criminal behavior, if it's true. There are a lot of victims involved here who deserve sympathy way more than a millionaire football coach. You don't get a pass for traumatizing people just because you lost your job over it. But on the other hand, a stark and dark reminder of what this industry can do to people. Any sports industry, when you're at the top of it, Moore took over for Harbaugh, one of the winningest coaches in Michigan history. And pressure at places like Michigan, or Auburn, or Alabama can be suffocating. And apparently the administration knew he was suffering from mental health issues. Like for a year leading up to all of this, they knew of this affair that was allegedly going on. But, you know, when you screw your life up and it begins to crumble in front of you, the spiral, obviously, can be fast and violent. And it's a tragedy. It's a human tragedy. Watching someone self-destruct in real time is never fun. And there were a lot of jokes, you know, at his expense, which is whatever. It is whatever, because that's just how social media is these days. But, you know, no matter what colors someone else wears or the school they affiliate with, you've got to remember that it is a tragic circumstance for that person, no, you know, but definitely for the victims of the events. And, you know, with that being said, the victims of the events, let's just hope everyone involved, including Chiron Moore, finds some peace and accountability. I know that he was arraigned last Monday. He faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison. But even, you know, if you guys didn't know this is a law degree. I am a lawyer in my day job, not a criminal lawyer. But, you know, my opinion on it is, even if he takes a plea deal or is found guilty of these things, and for whatever reason, this plays out, really, no matter how it goes, even though, you know, some of the more serious charges demand, you know, 5-year sentence or whatever, I think he's unlikely to go to prison. And that's just how it is with a lot of people that are in positions of power like him. I don't think that he is imprisoned. He probably gets some sort of monitored release, which I believe he already is on his way to right now. He can't leave the state of Michigan, and I believe he has a tether. But yeah, I mean, I think no matter how this goes, I don't think he goes to prison. I think the potential of going to prison is probably going to get him enrolled in some of these mental health services faster. And that obviously comes into account when he does go further with this. And obviously, you've got to keep in mind that the complaining witness, which is the subordinate, the female staffer, the assistant to the head coach that he was allegedly sleeping with, her want to move this case forward is really the hinge of this whole thing. It's not against the state. She is essentially the plaintiff, and the state's going to take action on her behalf because it is criminal activity. But, you know, if she at one point decides that everything is all, you know, hunky dory and everything's fine, she could drop this case. And I think that is ultimately probably the route they're going to go. I've already seen reports on things of her. She was retained on staff and whatnot. So there is certainly an avenue for him, no matter what he's charged with or what he pleads to, that he does not go to prison. So don't be surprised if that happens. Get a little water here. Let's get to something. R.I.P. R.I.P. to Sherrone Moore's. R.I.P. to Sherrone Moore's career, and I hope that doesn't hurt her career any further. But anyway, let's get to something that we can actually cheer for, which is Auburn basketball, which does not look great. We're still cheering for it. It's actively happening, at least. And we're still, Stevens Pearl still has us sitting at 21 in the AP poll. So, and which is good, because we've only really fallen, you know, one spot over the last few weeks with some really terrible losses to teams that basically all exchanged the first place ranking. Our last win, as you know, didn't get to cover it, a thumping of 92-78 over Chattanooga. The offense looked a little bit better. I wouldn't say that they looked significantly better, but they were scoring points and they won a game. But we have a massive problem. And it's really not something we can fix with a timeout. Emeka Opurum is out for the remainder of the season with an undisclosed health issue, which is a disaster. Emeka is basically the only true center that we have on this team. He's one of the only rim protectors at the height that he plays at. And without him, we are certainly small, which we already were. But that size difference has been exposed over and over again since we went and played in Vegas. And we saw it a little bit against Chattanooga. We gave up way too many offensive rebounds. We got pushed around in the paint. But even worse, elite teams like Michigan and Arizona capitalized on it over and over and over again. And that is a real concern moving forward, especially in SEC play when they are a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit stronger than most teams. But there's some success. I will include a success part of the basketball segment is Keyshawn Hall has been an absolute stud and an outlet when the offense breaks down. And it seems like we can just dump the ball to him and let him go to work. I think that he is playing like an all SEC first teamer right now, which is amazing to have given the struggles on the other end of the court. And then Elijah Freeman, who volunteered against Chattanooga to come off the bench, tallying 19 points from the bench. Kevin Overton, I think, is still nursing that ankle injury. So we need, that scoring punch from the guard spot, and he delivered it. So those two shining stars on the offensive side of the ball, which we will need on Saturday. Because on Saturday, we are taking on Purdue at the Indy Classic, another tall task against a team with a size advantage. I mean, they're boasting a 7'4" player. So how does Auburn win this? Candidly, we'll do scores later. I don't think we do. But if we try to play a half-court game, we lose by 20. It is as simple as that, and we have seen it happen over and over again already this season. We cannot let them set up and dump it into the post. We have to be chaos agents. We need Purdue's point guards to be really uncomfortable, and we need to press and trap and speed them up. If this game is played in the 60s or 70s, Purdue wins. If this game is played in the 80s or 90s, Auburn has a real shot. I want to see us running them off the floor. But it is going to be a tough hill to climb. Purdue is disciplined, they're well coached, and they are big. They're bigger than Auburn. There's no question about it. But if Keyshawn Hall can get them in foul trouble early, then we've got a little bit better of a chance in the ballgame. And I apologize to everyone for the episode being so long. But we're going to get out of here soon. Before we get out of here, actually, let me just wrap it will be, we have a shot in the ball game. I don't think we win it. I said that. I want to make sure you guys hear me. We're going to do scores later on. But let me know what you think. Is Auburn going to go toe-to-toe with Purdue? Who knows? Unfortunately, the reality of not recording for a week is you've got to touch on a bunch of stuff, and we are already over 34 minutes. I apologize to that. Thank you for listening if you still are. We've got one or two more things to go down through, and that is gymnastics. We've got to give some love to the gymnastics squad. Last night was their annual preview meet, and the vibes were immaculate. The vibes were immaculate, and Neville out there for this new squad's first showing of the season. If you haven't been to a gymnastics meet at Auburn, you are missing out. As always, Neville maintains one of the best atmospheres in college sports, and that does not miss for gymnastics. Now, the season officially kicks off in January, but if last night was any indication, this team is going back to the postseason. They looked great. Tickets are getting more expensive. They're between $50 and $105 right now. So if you want to go see them, go get your tickets because Neville is going to be rocking on Friday nights all through the spring. And that, folks, I appreciate you sticking with me. Is going to do it for today's episode. We're going to keep monitoring the transfer portal. If any more big names drop, we will jump back on and talk about it and see if it is something to be concerned about or not. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Please leave me a comment about what you think of our portaling players, what's going on up in Michigan, what spring sports are you looking forward to the most? Also, hit me up on Twitter and X at Tigers on a Roll, where I keep the conversation going all day, every day, always in the mix over on Twitter. If you want to, go back and forth, I am more than happy to do so. In the meantime, stay calm, trust the process, and as always, War Eagle, folks. I'll see you.